60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LSN Television. And we're also carried by a number of our radio affiliates here in Lancaster and Fairfield County. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. Our executive producer, Kelly Roberts, standing by off camera here, that lines up the guests, thinks a lot of the questions, and does a great job putting this program together. And the students here at Fairfield Christian Academy. Back by popular demand, second week in a row, we've got Kathy and Ted Duffus, and they are with Tender Loving Bearz from New Connections Church right here in Lancaster. Your daughter is the pastor there.
That's right.
And for the folks that may have missed last week's program, tell us a little bit about what this ministry is and how you're going to be using all these bears and things. You've got lots of these.
All kinds. There's all kinds.
And where did you get? So are these through donations that people have given?
Some of these are donated. Some of them we purchase ourselves through the fund that we have.
Okay.
And the ministry itself was established for my daughter-in-law, Michelle Byerly Black, who passed away in 2006. And she was an avid bear collector, and she loved children. She had 2 children of her own she loved. And the thing was, she was a severe diabetic, and she worked in our church nursery faithfully for 2 years. She lived in Pennsylvania, so they had to drive out every weekend for her to do that. But the bears were so important to her in situations when she was hospitalized that we felt like when she passed, this would be a great way to remember her. So we take the bears once a year on her birthday, which is February 14th.
So she was actually born on Valentine's Day.
She was born on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
We take them to the ER generally, and we leave 25 to 30 bears there sometimes for the children that come into the ER, so that when they come into that situation, they can feel more comfortable and more relaxed to know that they've got a little buddy to hold on to.
Oh, what a wonderful! I almost feel like it's Sesame Street or something here. Like they're going to jump up or something here.
Yeah.
Well, that is outstanding. And on behalf of the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, these will actually be placed in the trunk of our cruisers.
Yes.
And when the deputies go to different kind of situations, whether it's a tragedy, maybe a death of a family member, maybe a domestic, we see that so many times. Ted's one of our dispatchers, in case you missed last week's program. He's really on the front lines a lot of time when he's getting these calls for the very first time. And last week we talked a little bit about dispatching. We talked a little bit about what you do as a life coach, and kind of helping people through things in their life. And you're also available to talk about these kind of things.
Absolutely.
Let's start with you, Ted. During a time, now what shift do you work?
3 to 11.
3 to 11. That's probably the busiest shift, isn't it?
Yes, it sure is.
And so you get everything from my mailbox is damaged to where do I find an exterminator? What are some of the odd calls you get that you wouldn't think would be coming into a law enforcement agency?
We get a lot of calls for bats in the house.
Wow.
They're almost like demanding people to come and remove the bat. We get calls, it's ridiculous calls where people's garbage gets blown onto somebody else's property and they want something done. It's just little things that law enforcement really shouldn't be involved in.
And that's, I think a lot of times when people have nowhere to turn, when it's Saturday night and every agency is closed, or it's Sunday morning or something like that, it is just something people gravitate to, at least to get some direction.
Exactly.
So, over the years you've handled probably thousands of different calls, haven't you? What are some of the ones that are more memorable?
Well, there's actually in my time here with your office is 3 of them actually stand out. We spoke last week about the tragedy that I handled on the suicide call. That one really sticks out in my mind. On a flip note, I had another one that I thought was going to be in the same situation. Got a call from a gentleman probably in his 30s who was just fed up. He didn't want to go on with his life anymore. By the time I got done talking to him and law enforcement got there, we were laughing like we were old friends. And he wanted to know if I was going to be there with the sheriff's deputies when they got there because he wanted to meet me.
Wow.
So that one really stands out. Then
And a good ending because
Yes.
he was okay.
Yes.
Right.
And then I had a elderly female. It was 2 years ago in the wintertime. Was at a bingo game in Baltimore. She got off the road on her way home somehow and got into the woods and got stuck. And she had no idea where in the world she was. So as luck would have it, she called in on her cell phone, and we have what we call a rebid, which will actually update the caller's location. And I had the Baltimore police officer in one of our units check in the area, and every once in a while it was dark, it was at night, she was scared. I kept her on the phone, and I kept having law enforcement turn on their reds and blue lights and hit their sirens. They eventually located her without incident, and she was fine.
Oh my golly.
Yeah.
Oh my golly.
That was almost like a 45-minute to an hour call. It actually tied me up, but the ending was great.
Wow. Wow. So, last week we talked about, and Kathy talked about, sometimes it's tough to getting these calls day in and day out, and it takes its toll. And you shared, how it can be very difficult on Ted or all of our dispatchers
Yes.
when they come home.
I think so. I think it's a very difficult job, and I think from what I see, because I live with one,
Yeah.
these guys handle it very well. They all handle it very well, and they're all very polite and very kind when they answer the phone, and they're willing to help in any way they can, in any way that they have available to help the public in all these situations. Sometimes it amazes me what they do call on when Ted and I have some conversations, but he's very. He's just very willing to help, and he's just, I think, gifted for this job that he's in, because it does take a certain person who can speak to these people with comfort and politely, no matter how stressed they get. And stress is a big thing in any job, but that's a very stressful job, and yet you would not know it when you call in. They're very, very kind and very nice, and I think we should all appreciate what they do.
I do too. And what I find absolutely amazing is over the course of the year, do you know how many thousands of calls we have into our dispatch center?
Oh, wow. So far this year alone, I think we're up close to 7,000.
So if you can imagine 7,000 just this year, and we're early into the year, first quarter of the year, if you can imagine you get 7,000 people calling in. And over the course of the year, I will get a number of people that will call and say, great job, good job, you did a nice job on that. But I very seldom get a complaint.
Oh, that's great.
And then what happens many times is, a lot of times it's a misunderstanding, and since all the calls are recorded that come into our dispatch center, we're able to actually play those back. And the reality is, most of the time, the dispatchers were just telling them, sometimes people don't want to hear what you've got to say.
Exactly. There's a lot of times we tell them they don't want to hear it, but we still have to send a unit, and they tell them exactly what we told them, but they'll listen to the deputy before they listen to us.
Right,
You
right,
know?
yeah. Now, we were talking a little bit about a life coach. Last week you gave an example of where a life coach might work with someone that's saying they wanted to lose weight, maybe they wanted to get in better shape, a whole host of different things. You talk to different groups. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things you share about being healthy, living healthy, thinking healthy?
Well, living healthy and thinking healthy all comes back to believing in yourself.
Okay.
If you love yourself, you're going to take care of yourself. And I think the closest relationship that we have usually as Christians is with Christ, but our second closest relationship should be our love for ourselves, because if we love ourselves, we will accomplish the things that we believe God set us up to do. So it's important to know your strengths and your weaknesses. It's important to know what you're gifted in, and then it's very important to use those gifts the best way you possibly can, hopefully to achieve the goals in your life, the things that you want to do, and even more than you thought you could.
Well, and since we've been created in the image of God,
Yes.
that the Bible's pretty clear we're to take care of this what God has given us.
Absolutely.
Over the years we're here, the short years we're
Yes.
here. Where does a person get started? Let's say that they've had a lot of difficulty, or they really have had trouble navigating through things. How do you help them identify what their strengths may be?
Well, the first thing we do is just talk about what it is they'd like to achieve in their life, or what is the situation that's causing them grief or causing them problems. And then I always do a personality test to find out what that person's strengths and weaknesses are, and then we really emphasize how strong they are in the areas where they are strong. And then we talk a little bit about how maybe you've had a conflict or a problem because this small weakness that you have comes back to haunt you. And often they don't realize that that's what it is. They think it's just a part of who they are, and they think they can't change. But not only that, it helps identify other people's personality traits. If I have to deal with someone who's not like me, and that's everybody,
Right.
I need to know a little bit more about what makes them operate in the system that they operate in. So personalities are all different. If I know that you, for instance, like to be complimented when something is done at work, then I'm going to make sure you're complimented, so that makes you feel comfortable. If you are someone who's very humble and don't want to be complimented, then certainly I'm not going to be talking about praising you in front of everyone, because it's going to make you uncomfortable.
Right.
But that's just a little thing. We need to find out what these relationships mean, not only personal, but at work. We can always take a look at what makes you excel, or what holds you back, and that's what we do. And then we hold you accountable to a plan that you might put together. So it's not all fun and games.
What's kind of the period of time that you would be working with someone, or does it depend on the person, or is there differences of
Ideally, if you work with a coach, it should be at least 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But very often, we get really great results in shorter periods of time. And I found that my clients work with me anywhere from a month to 2 months, and then I'm always available for them. But it does, it's just sometimes identifying the problem, and then what happens is once you identify the problem, then you can work on it. But if we don't know there is one, then we can't do anything about it.
Kathy, would you mind giving your number, or how they can get in touch with you, website?
Yes.
Yeah.
My phone number is 740-407-6460. My website is coachthroughlife.com, and we're on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere.
And how did you get in? What made you decide to be a life coach? It sounds like it'd be a really fun thing to do, help people.
Well, it started years ago when I lived in California, and I had a lot of exposure to wonderful, positive people. Dr. Robert Schuller, Norman Vincent Peale. I worked for so many wonderful people and around so many wonderful people who encouraged me and motivated me. And I always lit up when anybody was giving a motivational talk or gave me some encouragement. And I felt like that's something that we all need. So I've always been a motivator. I've always been a listener. I've always enjoyed helping people. So it was just a natural for me.
We're just about out of time. Ted, I appreciate you being here the last couple weeks. Kathy, Duffus, wonderful family, godly people, and it's just been a pleasure getting to know you folks over the last few years. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week, and the students here at Fairfield Christian Academy, certainly Kelly Roberts, our executive producer, and you, the viewers and listeners. Until next week, same time, same place, God bless. Buckle up if you're driving, and we'll see you right here next week.
When it comes to choosing a school, parents who want the best education for their students look for academic excellence, skilled teachers, a safe school that encourages their values. Students want a school with competitive athletics, unique opportunities, and friendships that last a lifetime. Fairfield Christian Academy, the place where parents and students agree. Enrolling now at fairfieldchristianacademy.com.